this is going to get real hippie real fast.
And then leave a review.
Please leave a review. Please do. All your millions of listeners, I'm going to straighten them out right here.
Please
leave a review.
I believe I did, but if I didn't, I will go on there and leave a review.
You can leave another one.
I don't know if I could leave two.
You got into accounting.
Well, I've always liked teaching.
She can be trusted to teach.
What if I just take my accounting knowledge and do some contract work? I'll pick up a couple contract clients and just see where it goes.
And Amanda literally wrote the book on Xero.
QBO is a piece of crap.
Literally.
Like, let's not forget that.
You became the mother of all accountants.
Well, the elephant in the room with businesses is finance.
And when I say all accountants, I mean the change agents in the accounting industry. Like the mother of all change agents, Amanda.
That's very sweet. Wow, that's a good segue to accounting salon. Coming from my traditional tax background, show up to the conference and, a sensible dress and heels, because that's what you wear to accounting conferences. And there's a gentleman standing there. He's like, well, I'm Rod Drury. What was inspiring or moving, like a free virtual conference for the world. It was called Salon V, and we had like 1,200 people sign up.
And I feel like that's where Padgett fell in this evolution, because now you can help all of these other firms.
What I think is going to be real interesting is in the next 5 years, probably more than half of accounting practice owners are going to retire. And what happens with those practices?
Very, very excited to have a special guest tonight.
Amanda Aguillard.
Oh, wait, Ackerman, you're better at being straight-faced than I am.
Oh, God.
Well, please just start
on the fly, but we'll go for it. Hello and welcome. My name is...
You can introduce, I guess.
Hello. My name is Jason Ackerman. I am a CPA. Like, hello and welcome. You're doing an accounting firm. Okay, this is not good. Well, we can segue. I don't know how to say your last name correctly, so you say it for us.
Sure, Aguillard.
There's a subtlety of it, because I wanted to say Aguillard, and it's Aguillard.
Is that
Aguillard?
Because you grew up in Louisiana, right?
Oui.
So is that
Louisiana.
Like that's a French name?
Well, yeah, ish. It's French-ish. If you go back a couple hundred years, some of my ancestors came over from the Canary Islands. That's the Spanish part of it, right? Because Aguillard is Spanish. Most of my ancestors were broke-ass poor. Can I say ass?
Yes.
Say
whatever you want. Yeah.
Okay. Broke-ass poor, and were kicked out of Nova Scotia. That's Cajuns were kicked out of Nova Scotia, and a lot of them settled down here in South Louisiana. So that's my people.
Okay, this is a question that everyone asks me, because I grew up in South Carolina. I don't have a Southern accent. Why do you not have a Southern accent? You have a slight twang, but it's not like Cajun Louisiana accent.
Because I haven't started drinking yet today.
Oh.
Once I start drinking, it starts to come out.
Is it? So then the question is, do you hide it, and then when you start drinking, does it flow out, or are you masking it, or is it just?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I think it depends on who you ask. I think there are probably some people in this country who would be like, I can't even understand a word Amanda says because she's got such a thick Southern accent. But because y'all are in the Carolinas, it's probably not as strong. So ask some of our California friends or our New York friends. They're probably like, that girl, she doesn't sound like she can add 2 and 2 because she's got such a thick Southern
accent. I love that the Cajun accent is the best accent of all the Southern accents by far. It's number 1.
Absolutely.
It's like molasses. It kind of just flows out. That's why some really good rap is from there too, like Wheezy.
Yeah. So you guys are probably not intimately familiar with Louisiana politics, but we had a governor 4 times named Edwin Edwards, and he was legitimately a crook, like went to jail in between being reelected as our governor. But
that's like Ed squared. That's like Edwin squared.
Yeah, but he was the most charming man ever. If you ever want to watch some funny stuff, like YouTube Edwin Edwards, he has the thickest Cajun accent, but just the stuff he comes out with off the top is, you could be like, I don't agree with this guy one bit. Also, I know he's taking all of our money, but I'll vote for him because he was just that charming.
If he got the last soundbite, then he's in. He's got it.
Completely.
Oh, man, that's what's thinking in your head. So
you need to hire him to do some sales.
I know. Well, apparently he's a good salesman himself, because at like 90-something years old, I think he's got like a 38-year-old wife.
Ooh, he's selling himself. That's politics, though, right? You just sell yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I would think. So what is a Cajun, though? did like an actual Cajun? Because when I think Cajun, I think spice.
Okay, that is not true. That is not accurate.
But that's what I think. It's true.
That's
for me.
right. So I'm gonna
I know it's not
all
true.
your millions of listeners. I'm gonna straighten them out right here.
It's billions, but yeah.
With a B.
Cajun. Well, first of all, there's different kinds of Cajun food. So where I grew up was around Lafayette. So it was the prairies. So like we eat a lot of pork, a lot of rice, a lot of gravies, gumbo, jambalaya, so pork products and rice. But there are Cajuns who were closer to the New Orleans area or south, even more south than New Orleans, which there's not that much south of New Orleans, but that lived on like the bayou. So that's like seafood Cajuns. Those are Cajuns that fish and shrimp and eat a lot of seafood. So those are both legitimate Cajun cuisines, but they neither are necessarily spicy. Now I will say everything like the food is good here, y'all. It's real good. It's flavorful. And it could be spicy, but that's not a defining characteristic of
Spice,
Cajun.
not spicy.
Yeah.
Spice.
Flavored, seasoned. It's
Okay,
good.
so tell us, give us your accounting background. How'd you get into accounting?
So my accounting background starts in 1996. No, wait, hold on. I did math wrong. 1992. I was a senior in high school.
Years are so elusive, though, right?
I
So
know.
senior in high school, that's what matters,
Senior
right?
high school.
You're a senior in high school.
I needed an elective. I went to this big public high school, and a friend of mine's mom was an accountant. So I didn't know what accounting was, but I just knew that was a thing. They're like, well, we have this business class. It's called accounting. I was like, oh, I'll try that. So senior in high school, I was like, dude, this is it. This is what I'm gonna do the rest of my life. I love this. It's all about organization. You know, I went to state rally in accounting. Like I was all in. And so went from there to college to grad school.
I have to believe that somehow the accounting part is part of your name too. That's like A3. You know, for some part of me thinks like Amanda Aguillard, accountant. Like it just fits naturally.
Top of the list, baby. Top of the list.
So you said organization.
AAA.
What did you like about accounting so much that you fell in love?
Oh, because it's taking a big mess and making it organized. It's just taking a bunch of things and putting them in the right slots. You know,
if you can master that, you can master your life too, right?
Well, I fancy myself a pretty organized person, Scott.
I mean, you it's like when I'm looking down everything that you do, you've got so many different columns to keep everything organized. It's like a Trello board almost.
My life is a Trello
Your
board.
life is a Trello board.
That's my life is a Trello board.
I was trying to list everything, and I think I ran out of space on the Google doc.
When people are listening to this in 30 years, you're gonna have to Google Trello.
Right.
I would love if somebody was listening to this in 30 years. Please send me a message. Back to the future. Yeah.
Well, it could be like podcasts could be like the new, time capsules. Honestly, like, does anybody do real time capsules anymore? Everything's digital, so it's like you automatically have a time capsule.
Right now, Amanda, that's exactly what we're doing. You cracked open the key. We're just doing a time capsule. That's it. So this is exciting, though. This shaped your mindset on what you do. And in the beginning, you really do focus on getting organized. That's a really key skill set, finances and organization, and learning that at a young age.
Well, I've always been a dork. Like I always had lists when I was little, I always had lists of things, books I was reading or chores to do. Like I was like the girl who would always want to play office or school, right? Because I could use the supplies and I could keep things organized. I guess I had baby dolls. I don't remember being attached to baby dolls, but I was like, we are gonna run a freaking business out of this bedroom. I got this is new. I'm not making a word this up. I got a typewriter for Christmas present 1986. So I could type forms out. So I could make forms to play office. That is 100% true.
I mean,
do you still have that typewriter?
No, but I wish I did.
I mean, I'm not going to say that's the sexiest thing I've ever heard, but it's a top 5.
I got a typewriter and I got the Top Gun soundtrack, 1986. And that was like good times, man. Top Gun soundtrack, creating forms.
And you know what? Top Gun's coming out again this year. I think you're going to have to get a typewriter.
When I was reading this book, Upstream, they were talking about FEMA were testing in 2004, and they called it the PAM test. Have you heard of this?
Mm-mm.
So the year before Katrina, they were testing if the levees broke, and they predicted 60,000 deaths. I think there were
1,800 deaths.
And the reason, so their near miss was the contra lanes.
Contraflow?
Yeah.
Funny.
Of the highway. They said they failed the prior year. And that was the one thing they tried to test. And because they failed that, that was why they were able to get everybody out. And nobody really hears about that. They hear about all the other shit from Katrina. But that shit was bound to happen.
That was a lot of shit. When 1,800 people die in America drowning in their attics, it's kind of a bad deal. Like,
but it could have been 60.
Crazy. It could have been,
without the contraflow. Because the year before,
I don't remember specifically the year before, but I've lived in South Louisiana all but 1.5 years of my life, and I've evacuated for a lot of hurricanes.
Okay.
And and I have been stuck. I can tell you in 2000. So if Katrina was 2005, it was probably 2003. I can't remember which storm it was, but I remember trying to get to my parents' house, which is 2 hours away usually, and it was like 10 hours or something crazy.
I'm sure during the chaos, it seems like nothing. It's like 25 hours. It doesn't seem like a lot.
Dude, if we had another hour, I could tell you, Katrina was crazy. It was
That's for our other podcast, Storms.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. You have these near misses, and those people don't really get celebrated. It's almost like when there's a big revolution in accounting, maybe if they don't thank Amanda, they need to, because of all the other tracks that she laid. You know what I mean? Like,
please talk to my 17-year-old daughter and tell her I'm smart, because she thinks I'm an idiot.
No, we can't do that. Legally, we can't do that.
That'd be creepy.
Skip the teen years. When I got married, my dad was like, "I'm glad I'm getting a daughter at age 30."
Nothing wrong with teenage daughters. My daughter's about to go to high school, and that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So tell us how. So you got into accounting. Tell us how you eventually got to starting your own business, your own accounting.
Okay, so I finished my degree at the University of Denver and started working for Deloitte back when it was Deloitte and Touche, and then transferred to the New Orleans office and did that for a little while. I had a corporate controllership job for a while after that, and then I had 2 babies in like 15 and a half months, and like they're back to back. And I was like, I'm going to mess something up. I can't run this company with I haven't slept in years, like I've got to quit. So I quit working and didn't work for probably 7 years, close to 7 years. And then I got divorced. And I was like, well, I'm going to have to go get a freaking job at some point. So do I want to go back to what I was doing at Deloitte or in this corporate controllership position with these 2 kids? And we were all going through this divorce, and, it was upheaval, which, it's all uncertain. And so I was like, I don't really want to do either of those things. So what if I just take my accounting knowledge and do some contract work? I'll pick up a couple contract clients and kind of get back into it and just see where it goes. And that's how my firm started, just with a couple contract clients.
So how'd you get your first clients?
A friend of mine was, and still is, a partner at a law firm in town, and they were working through some of the BP oil spill settlement. And so the basis of the awards in the oil settlement case it was based on financial records, right? So like, if you could show lost revenue, you could get a settlement from BP. This attorney friend of mine was looking to get an accountant to help either reconstruct records or try to interpret records. And so I got into some of these clients with him, and I was like, this is possibly the worst record keeping. Like, how are these people running businesses? How are they staying afloat? Like, there's clearly a need for outsourced accounting for these businesses. So that's how it started.
I think you're a teacher, right? And I think that you have a lot of wisdom. And at what point did you decide, I have a lot of wisdom that I could share with others? I'm going to do what I know, and I'm going to teach what I know. That's how I was introduced to you, was Elefant. And you bought out like an entire block on XeroCon. And I just thought, this was so cool. This is somebody who has a firm and also has a training platform. And I just learned all of it on the spot, like at the bar with you. And it was like, wow, like I was amazed. It made an impression on me.
Those were the good old days when we go to conferences and hang out.
Walking from bar to bar. It was so fun. Like,
that was fun. That was a good time, man.
That too. It's the first time I had ever done something like that. So that was fun.
That was crazy. That was fun. So I didn't ever set out. Well, I've always liked teaching. But
you played teacher.
I played teacher
in middle school.
And yeah, I did. So I always liked teaching. and then plus accounting. But I didn't set out to create. I'll tell you what happened. My best friend from college and I, her name's Monica, she was helping me in my firm. This is like the beginning of the practice. So like 2014, 15, she was just pitching in, helping me build my practice. And we were using Xero, and she's like, this Xero stuff is really cool. Cause she's a CPA as well. This Xero stuff's really cool. I'm like, I know. And like, we learned something new. We're like, that's really cool. Yeah, I know. That's really cool. I wish more people knew about Xero because it's awesome. And so she is my travel buddy. Like we've traveled all over the world together. And she's like, hey, what if we come up with a company and we can go teach business owners how to use Xero wherever they are, and then we can travel and write it off. I was like, that is brilliant. It turns out it's a really terrible idea because like the one-to-many work just doesn't work when nobody knows of the platform that you want to teach. And also, like, the idea of traveling around is incredibly inefficient to teach a couple of people how to use software.
I mean, you're the master at the flywheel, though.
This sounds like all my
like
clients. You're like, I want to do this. Like, let's write it off. Like,
yeah, that was the whole gist. Was like, let's write it off. And
you take things off and create businesses like expense line items that you're turning into revenue streams, right?
Well, yeah,
Almost.
except that it didn't happen that way. So we never did one training for business owners on site. Like we were like, okay, well, we're just gonna pick the cities in the US that we want to go to, and then we'll just get a hotel ballroom, and then we'll fill it with people that want to learn. That was never gonna happen. And then in the same breath, we're like, well, we have to, we've got to register this LLC so we can, legitimize it. What should we call it? We're like, it doesn't freaking matter what we call it. This isn't even a real business. This is just an excuse to go travel. And so we're like, well, we thought about a lot of things, but we're like, well, the elephant in the room with businesses is finance. Like that's the thing they avoid talking about. And, it seems overwhelming. And how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? We're like, all right, well, cool. We're from Louisiana. Let's spell it the French way. Cool. It doesn't matter because nobody's ever going to listen to anything we have to say anyway. So that's how we ended up with the name. And then the way we pivoted to training accountants and bookkeepers was just randomly. I was talking to some of our friends, some of our peers, and was like, I've got this idea. I think you're going to, you're a Xero advisor too. And don't you think it's awesome? And more businesses should use it. And I think we're going to travel around and teach folks how to use it. And one of our friends looked at me and said, you're going to teach businesses. Can you come freaking teach my staff? Like my staff needs to know how to use Xero. And I was like, oh, that could work.
Yeah, yeah.
That could work. We could just teach
big light bulb.
Accountants and bookkeepers how to do it, and we should do it virtually. So that was 2016, 17. So that's where Elefant came from.
Is that how you became the mother of all accountants? And when I say all accountants, I mean the change agents in the accounting industry, like the mother of all change agents, Amanda.
That's very sweet. So this is going to get real hippie real fast. So I've been pulling tarot cards every morning. You're familiar with tarot?
Oh, my wife is so into tarot. God. Yeah.
So I've been pulling tarot cards every morning, like not reading a whole thing, but just like pulling one card a day. And the Empress card keeps coming up for me, which is the mother figure, is like the nurturing spirit. So it's funny that you say that. I do feel like I'm kind of everybody's mom.
I love that.
I do
right there
leads into tarot card readings.
Yeah, totally.
So my wife, we go to the Renaissance Festival every year, which is, the best for sightseeing. And she always gets her fortune told tarot style. And I went last year with her, and she's like, do it with me. And I was like, whatever. This is only, they charge like $50. I'm like, this is insane. So the lady tells me, and she's like, I see a career change happening for you. And she's like, you're going to quit your job soon. I was like, I don't think so. I basically own a business. Like, that's going to be tough to do. So basically, I don't trust tarot cards anymore after that.
Well,
I'll make that punchline a lot better.
I was like, that's the one thing you couldn't say. You could have said, like, you're going to get divorced and, like, marry a goat. And I'd be like, okay, that makes a little more sense.
You never know. Maybe it's not.
Maybe it is real.
Maybe it's not quitting your job and changing jobs. Maybe it's changing the way you work or changing something about your job. Who knows? I don't know. I think it's just interesting. Like, I just think I certainly don't like steer my life based on whatever my card is, but more,
like, Like
No, but
change
there's
cart.
insight though, because I feel like you are what you pay attention to. If we're gonna go
Yeah.
hippie, then I feel like you are what you pay attention to. So whatever is gonna come out there, it's gonna bring out whatever you're honing in on anyway. So it's whatever is as you're doing it. And I've never done it before, but I feel like
Don't give the secret of tarot cards away.
it's not a secret. It's just validity. It's giving validity to what you see, because what you're seeing you're seeing the part that you let, and then you read more on that, right? You dig into the details of something that means more to you. So then you'll dig into the details and the spiritualness of it. I think. I don't know.
Yeah, it's intuition, and it's like, you're exactly right, Scott. Like it's about highlighting something to pay attention to. And I think most of us go through our lives every single day not paying attention to very much.
Right.
Just being reactive. And I mean, all this metaphysical mysticism stuff aside, like I think there's a lot of value in starting your morning and saying, you know what, today I just want to be aware of this thing. I want to pay attention to this thing. Like I want to pay attention to how I'm mothering my children or my friends or my peers, or I want to, pay attention to money and material things, or I want to pay attention to my health. Like if you could.
That's enough for one day. That's awesome. I love that. Yeah.
So
And then
next time I see you, I'll bring the cards and we'll read.
So what was the thing you did
I would
today?
love that. Yeah.
What's the thing you're focusing on today?
My card today was, I think it was about finances. I have to look because I keep a log every day, so I can't remember if that was today or yesterday.
Of course, you keep a log every day.
Of course I do.
You should.
In
No,
my
you
planner.
Yeah. No, because it should drive your actions for that day, and especially if it's something finances. Okay, you know what? I need to dust up underneath there. I need to catch this part because I haven't looked at my finances in a while, and I'm actually being serious. So
Okay, here's a quick business
probably do that
idea.
tomorrow.
Tarot cards.
I'll lag a day, Amanda. Just tell me which one you did yesterday, and I'll just lag you one day. I'm cool with that.
So, quick business idea: tarot cards, but designed for accountants.
Yeah.
Or clients. Like they're all focused, and you pick a card, and that's what you focus on that
Just
day.
don't call it tarot cards. You just got to call it something else, and then they'll buy it up. Call it forecasting. Forecasting their future.
Say, if you're like, so we're gonna start this meeting, I need you to pick something out of this deck. Pick one of these. Shuffle them, feel them. Really center yourself. Pull a card.
Call it.
Oh, whatever.
Today's meeting, we're discussing taxes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
It's an idea. It could be a write-off for sure.
Can we?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Can we brainstorm that one again later? Yeah, that's a good one. So, speaking of forecast.
So how did? So do you have an accounting firm anymore, or is it all Elefant?
I do still have an accounting firm.
Straight to the punch.
I do still have an accounting firm.
So how do you split your time?
Well,
tarot cards.
Yeah, no. Well, as you guys know, I am now the CEO of Padgett, and so that is my full-time job now. The Elefant stuff is pretty much like kind of runs on its own with a little bit of attention for me, and then my firm, I have a really wonderful lead accountant who pretty much runs the firm. So I don't spend a whole lot of time doing either of those two things anymore.
So Amanda, it must be comforting too to know that you've and I talk about this before, like you're climbing mountains almost, like with a lot of these journeys, and then almost it's like, okay, I think this is good now. I can let it go to the kids, and I'm gonna go do my next thing. And I feel like that's where Padgett fell in this evolution, because now you can help all of these other firms, and they all really do need help.
Yeah.
And you're the mother to help them all.
I feel like I feel like my, the last 8 or 9 years of my career have really set me up to be in the right spot at the right time with Padgett. I really do believe that, because it's a big company, it's a huge company, but if you look at it, it's really 180 practices, just like the one I built. Usually sole owner, small, 1 or 2 employees, maybe a little bit more. I mean, Scott's got a much bigger one, but for the most part, those franchises look very much like mine looked. So, I've got the resources, and I've got the opportunity, I've got the learnings to be able to help these franchise owners really build the practices they want to build. So I, coming out of my divorce, I built a practice that served me where I was at the time. I needed flexibility. I needed to build a lifestyle practice. Like I couldn't have built the kind of firm that you guys have, because that's not where I was at that time. But I think,
I mean, the firm's a reflection of you. It's just like a pet is the reflection of you, like Ackerman's pug is a reflection of him. Your firm's a reflection of you at the time. And that's
yeah,
amazing.
and that's what it
Yeah,
was.
that's so cool.
That's what it was. And so I was really deliberate about picking technology and processes to keep it super lean, because that's the way, the lifestyle practices need to run. It needs to run without me. But that's kind of the same wiring that you need to build a scalable practice, or that you need to build a practice that's going to have value after you. So I feel like the last 8 years, as I've done this in my own firm, it's really gotten me to where I need to be right now to do this, 180 other times. So
what do you, when you look at these,
or another 180 after that, and then another 180 after that, and scale that.
So when you look at these practices, what's the biggest thing you think that they need to change?
Well, I think that they are not unlike most sole prop accounting practices in the country, in that they have not figured out a way to carve out time to work on the business strategically. They are the product, and it's really tough to change anything when you are selling your time. So what I'm hoping to be able to do is to help folks figure out a way to sell stuff that's not you. That's not you. You've got to figure out a way to sell staff time, processes, technology, productized services in a way that gets you at least a little bit of leeway and some space out of the business, so you can sit at the top and look at it objectively and say, well, what do we want this to look like in 3-5 years, and be able to turn the ship a little bit.
They have to sell without selling, and that comes with bringing forward the value and understanding the value that you are bringing. I feel like a lot of people are already bringing a lot of value, and they just don't see that. And so they have to really understand that first internally. Then they don't have to sell, because it's effortless.
Yeah. There's got to be a mindset shift about what it is that you're selling. And Roger Harris, who's the president, says often, you got to sell what you know, not what you do. Like your value is what you know. It's, for a lot of these folks, it's 40 years of knowledge in the accounting or tax space. Like that has value beyond how long it takes you to fill out a form.
Yeah.
So,
those years, you can't replace that with anything else, and nobody can put themselves right in your shoes if they've been doing something else for 40 years. So that's a huge value right there. And then once they understand that, then all of a sudden, a lot of the other stuff that they used to worry about gets cleared out the way. The C's part.
Yeah. So that's where I'm coming in, I guess.
That's a good place, and it's a good time to come in. You're the apex of change agents in the industry at Padgett, so within your circle now, you have a bigger circle that you can impact, right?
Yeah. Awesome.
You mean you're like the mother of accounting salon too, which we haven't talked about. And I would love to hear more about it, because I don't know a lot about it.
How'd you find out about Xero?
That is a good question.
Okay.
You did write the book on Xero,
because you literally wrote the book, which Scott's holding up. This is a hearing podcast, so you can't see the book.
You can hear
we get like
Amanda's
a fun
voice.
if we order it.
She wrote it.
Can we get a fun signed copy where you put
I'll send you one.
You draw a typewriter or something on it?
Yeah, sure. Jason, I will send you a typewriter.
I'll pay for it.
You don't have to pay for it.
Let's actually hear about the author of the book. Amanda, you wrote some really good quotes, or you put together some very good quotes in here too. Because I can't claim that I read the whole book, but I did read the quotes, and I did read the stuff that you wrote, like in the beginning and stuff, and it was great. I mean, because I'm just imagining this in schools. I'm imagining like schools learning about QuickBooks and Xero, and what other book would they get in school?
So back up. How did you find out? How did you learn about?
Okay, how did I learn about Xero? So I told you guys when I saw all this really crappy bookkeeping work doing the BP oil spill stuff, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go to a conference. So I went to the Louisiana Society of CPAs technology, and I was in one session about small business accounting software. I'm like, I need to know this. I'm going to need to get some software. So of a 50-minute session, like literally 43 minutes of it were QuickBooks Online. Here's how you do, QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Online, all this stuff. And then he was like, well, there's this other company that's out of New Zealand. And this is no jokes, it was probably 2013, I think, maybe in 2012, but I think 2013, that was Xero showed up in the US like 2012. He's like, there's this company out of New Zealand. They have some cool stuff. It's really neat. It was always built in the cloud, so it works pretty well. and they have this thing, it's called cache coding. And he did a demo of cache coding. And I was like, almost in tears. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, I want this. This is what I want for my life, cache coding. And so I just signed up to be an advisor. And like, I mean, that was early days. Like there were probably a couple dozen advisors in the US back then. Like, I think I was the only person from between Houston and like Atlanta for a little while.
Do you think it was part of you is counterculture? I hear everything's QuickBooks. And then they said, oh, there's this other thing, Xero. Like, to me, it's like, there's something else.
Well, a couple things. So here's a tangent for you. There's a theory by this woman, Gretchen Rubin, that people have one of 4 tendencies, and it's about who you are accountable to. If you're accountable to yourself or to others, and like the mix, there's 4 options for that, right? Well, I am a questioner. I'm a questioner, so I know that anything that comes up, I'm just have questions. And like, if you tell me to do something, I'm not going to do it. I need to figure things out on my own. And so to your point, yeah, maybe a little bit. It wasn't that it was countercultural, but it was that, I mean, also QBO was a piece of crap in 2013. Like, let's not forget that the QBO of 2021 was not the QBO of 2013. So it was really terrible. So between like being interested in something that was different than the big green thing, and then also actually looking at the product, I was like, it doesn't even compare. Like, the interface is so much cleaner, it's so much slicker, doesn't break every 35 minutes. So I just went all in Xero from that day. Like, I never have taken a QuickBooks client ever, never, and I never will.
Do you know what I tell people?
My roads.
I tell people that I like the color blue more than I like green. That's an honest answer right now. That's my only honest answer is I like blue.
Better than green?
Yeah. It's just a better color.
That's a sales
I like them
right
both.
There.
Yeah. And no, but people don't question that.
No,
they don't really even question it.
Because we started about the same time, and we actually started I did a trial with QuickBooks Online. I was like, yeah, this is no good. And then I was looking for an alternative and went to Engage, actually, is where we found out about Xero. Yeah. That's cool that Louisiana has like a tech, their own little
Everybody has a tech.
South Carolina does not have
Louisiana's
a tech
big.
conference.
It's a big.
State Society doesn't run a tech conference?
I mean, no.
Well,
I'm sure there is one. I would hate to think that there isn't. There's a tech conference. Everybody has one, and now they're like the digital CPA.com conference,
Yeah, but that's an AI CPA thing. I think it's cool. I 100% know that South Carolina in 2013 did not have a
technology conference.
Really?
I'm not going to speak to the quality of it. I'm just going to say they had it. I mean, no jokes. Most of it was like, here's the latest scanner, that's hitting the market, or here's how we do this thing in pivot tables in Excel. Like, it wasn't real tech.
People that are predisposed to have some kind of tech background probably would have saw through a lot of the QuickBooks bullshit. And that's why they went to Xero, because it was it was being developed and it was a better product then too.
There's still people who don't see through the bullshit now in 2020.
Well, no, that's definitely true. Like, I'm with you. More people.
You had to stumble upon Xero. Like, it wasn't like Xero was there.
Yeah.
You had to find it on your own. You had to get lucky. You had to be at one of these tech conferences and get lucky.
No, because you are what you pay attention to. Like, I found Xero late, but it was still immediately when I found it, I latched onto it. But it was a client that was leaving us that told me about it. Huh. They actually told me about Alibaba too, but they were one of the first people that I even found out about that. I was like probably 15, and he mentioned, oh yeah, we're moving and we're going to do this and we're going to be remote and we're just going to be on Xero. And I'm like, I did my head whipped around. I'm like, whoa, all right, this is probably something worth looking at. And then that's what we did. And I was like head and my heel, or, tail between my legs kind of thing. It was such a cool, I was like, wow, they have a conference too. And I'm sure QuickBooks had a conference, but it was probably shit, and I just thought the
QuickBooks conference is apparently pretty good. Never been?
I've never been to a QuickBooks conference, but I did I've been to every single Xero conference in the US. And the very first one was 2013. It was like right after I had learned about Xero. I was like, I'm going to go to the conference. And I show up. It was in San Francisco. in like this kind of like art gallery. It's just one big room. And I swear, I think there were like 250 people there. I walk in the room and I, coming from my traditional tax background, show up to the conference and, a sensible dress and heels, because that's what you wear to accounting conferences. I walk in the front door and there's like literally everybody's in t-shirts and jeans, Xero t-shirts. And I walk in the front door and there's a gentleman standing there just greeting people. And he's like, "Hi, what's your name?" I'm like, "Amanda." He's like, "Well, I'm Rod Drury," who, if for anyone listening, is one of the founders of Xero. So standing there just greeting everybody.
You at the door.
Yeah. He's an awesome dude. He was greeting everybody at the door back then. And honestly, like he would greet everybody up until he's rolled off as the CEO, but every conference, I mean, he's just approachable, awesome dude. So, I was like, that's kind of cool. Usually at accounting conferences, there aren't like really smart people standing there at the door in their jeans, shaking your hand when they own, they've started this crazy company. So,
well, is that a mindset too, though? Thinking like, wait, they don't put smart people at the front, but then the owner of this company is, or the founder is, like, so what's the difference? Why am I thinking that these other companies don't put smart people in front? Like.
Wow, that's a good segue to accounting salon if you want to, because I find that most accounting conferences are really just commercials for apps or vendors. The content is usually so heavily sponsored and dictated by vendors that it's not the best content, which is why I started Accounting Salon.
Tell us about Accounting Salon. No, I'm sold. At the edge of my seat. I'm at the edge of my seat at each thing that we're talking about. These are big segments here, big Trello boards.
Yeah. So Accounting Salon started because I was at Accountex, if I'm being honest. I was at Accountex and I was like, well, so like I'd gone to one session. So this is probably 2017, if I had to guess. I'd gone to one session. It was like the modern accountant or having a lifestyle practice or something like that was supposedly so sexy, right? It's like, oh, well, whoever this is and we're just going to be, yeah, totally. I'm like, oh, I know this. This is going to be so awesome. This is going to change my life. I sit in this ballroom and the dude's slides were like not in high depth, like elongated perspective. They were like, whatever it is, 90, whatever the perspective is of like an old monitor or an old TV where it's like almost square and it was projected up on, a wide screen with like the black banner, the black space fillers. I was like, this is the guy that's going to teach me about modernizing my practice. Like you can't even do a freaking PowerPoint in the right perspective. And it was like all stock photography and really bad fonts. Like word art. Do you remember word art? Like word art stuff and bad.
We shouldn't use word art on PowerPoints. I'm gonna have to change some things.
I was like, this is terrible. And so that was the beginning of the day. And then at the end of the day, I ended up at a bar, as one does, with Doug Sleeter, Clayton Oates, Rachel Fisch, and a couple other folks. And I was like people that I knew of, and I knew they were really smart and maybe a little bit friendly, but didn't really know. I was like, we're all at this hotel bar talking about whatever it was. I was like, this is the value of this conference is right here. It's not what was on the stage, 8 hours ago. It's sitting here talking to these real people about what's going on in the industry and how they're running their practices. I was like, what if we could just cut to this? What if we can just skip all the beginning stuff in the ballrooms and get to the back of the room or the bar conversations?
Skip all the social media and all the clickbait and get to the bar.
Yeah. So that's us, Accounting Salon. Or some people say Accounting Saloon.
Saloon. So what's this? So we'll explain the difference between a salon and a saloon for those that don't know.
Not much.
You need to do that.
What is a salon then? So then let's back to
tell us what so how do we sign up for it?
Yeah. So a salon is, going back to French roots, is like comes from the Age of Enlightenment when people would just sit around a parlor and talk about these big ideas, and nobody was the center, nobody was the expert. It was just an exchange of free flowing ideas about something, right? Or things. And everybody was equals and diverse thoughts. And so I was like, wow, that's like the spirit of what I want to do for Accounting Salon. I want it to be a group of people in a room just talking about it, like being vulnerable and talking about what's going on in their practices, but also like it's this just some of the smartest people in the industry. And so we started with 18 people in 2018. I had this idea for Accounting Salon, and I was like, man, I know all the cool Xero people, I think, but there have to be some really smart people on the QuickBooks side. Like there have to be some forward-thinking folks over there. I just don't know any of them. So
agents from within.
Yeah. So I was like, how do I tap into the Intuit people? And that's like right around then is when I got introduced to David Leary, who worked at Intuit for 21 years and knows everybody over there. So I was like, I've got this crazy idea. Do you want to help me find some people on the other side? And he did. And so he and I picked like 18 people, or like, just some Xero people, some QuickBooks people. Come to New Orleans, we'll sit around a room, we'll drink, we'll have a good time. And we did that in 2018 and it was awesome. And so every year we've been adding a couple more people to that group, but we really do. Now that this is going to stick, I think, or that it turns out it's a viable idea, we are really deliberate about the invitations we extend because we want it to be a diverse group in a lot of different ways.
You haven't been invited, Scott.
It's okay. I'm very divisive.
It's deliberate. Like we want groups, folks at different size firms, different platform bases, different, industries, different parts of the world. So we've got people right now from Australia, UK, Canada, and America, and United States. So yeah. So we'll see.
From within, are there factions of QuickBooks versus Xero inside the Accounting Salon?
What we're talking about is so far beyond general ledger stuff, it doesn't even matter. We're talking about staffing and compensation and advanced.
And there are no colors. It's no green or blue when you're talking about that. Yeah, it is just.
So give us something that was like enlightening, French style, like you're in a big. Tell us something that you learned from one of these sessions.
Well, I'll tell you, the first year we did, Heather Satterley and Jay Kummelman did a session on Zapier. So this is 2018. I didn't really know. I knew of Zapier. I didn't know Zapier. And like, that was 90 minutes of my life. I was like, holy shit, this has changed my life. Like that you can do all this crazy stuff with Zapier. It's like programming, it's like coding, but it's like coding with like pictures,
Mario Kart coding.
Yeah. Like this is freaking awesome. This is going to be like probably the most important thing accountants can learn in the next 5 years. So that was very cool. Liz Mason's done one. She's done a couple of them, but she did one that year on building a cult following, and like, she's hilarious. It was like a parallel between building a cult following with your clients and Jonestown.
I've never heard this story. I like this.
So she did this whole thing of like, Jim Jones and like what he built with his cult, and like how you should maybe parlay some of those ideas into building.
Oh, that is creepy.
Following.
Didn't Blake say something about a cult last week too?
Well, Blake was in the room, so maybe he got it from.
All right, so this is what the industry needs, and that's what the Accounting Salon is too. It's like a house of change agents. Then you go spread your wings and spread the news, and then people go on Twitter and they go everywhere else, and more people find out, and every year it's bigger and bigger if you stay the course.
Well, what was really, I was going to say interesting, that's not the right word. What was inspiring or moving last year was because we couldn't do an on-site in May like we usually would do in 2020, we took all the speakers who were going to speak at Accounting Salon in New Orleans, agreed to share their presentations virtually. And so we opened it up and made it a free virtual conference for the world. And it was called Salon V, and we had like 1,200 people sign up for this thing. It was so crazy.
That's awesome.
It's like a wild idea. I was like, hey, David, what if we just take this? I mean, if anybody can flip to a virtual conference, it's us. And we did. And it was freaking awesome. And people will still, like, I'll still hear from people like this week. Somebody says, Salon V was the best as far as content goes. It was the most relevant, most interesting content I've ever been to.
You were just trying to do something,
right? Out there. Just put it out there.
And COVID brought out the best and the worst in people. And some of the best things, stories like this, I'm sure everybody's life changed during COVID. You really figure out who you are, I think, when a lot of that other stuff is taken away. Yeah.
Well, apparently I'm an accounting nerd because that's what I did.
Yeah. There's no apparent or anything. Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us, what are you most excited about in the accounting world over the next few years?
Oh, gosh. Well, so what I think is going to be real interesting is in the next 5 years, probably more than half of accounting practice owners are going to retire. And what happens with those practices? So, I think there's a big opportunity for those of us who get it and who have processes and tech down and can go grab these firms, because I think they're going to be cheap. Like,
Yeah.
unless unless folks change the way that they are running their practices, like it's going to be totally a buyer's market, because
But it's going to be a win-win for everybody. I don't think a lot of these people see the value that they've been bringing forward either, and they may think they have to work till they retire. They may not think that there's some equity in that. Who knows?
I don't know. I think historically owners have thought, because this is the way it used to be. It used to be you just take the top line revenue, you give somebody 1.2 on top line revenue, and that was it. Just that's the way it was. Like, that was the price of things. Now, for you and I, like you guys and I, would you go buy a traditional book of business at that value? I'm not sure that you would.
Buy a Padgett office, hopefully.
Oh God, I hope you get a commission on that.
Somebody that is looking to build this, and it's a huge opportunity because it's getting it pennies on the dollar. You could buy into a system that can then convert clients. And maybe you need a support system when you're going through something like that, and nobody knows how much they need it until they go through it. And you don't go through it until you go through it. So it's almost like this is easy money, and then build up any models to do that with. So this is an example now that's happening in real time. So you can't think about our mindset and say we would never do that, because it's not about what we would do.
But I think her point was that the supply and demand, there's going to be a lot more.
Yeah, but you could always find ways to sell that too. I think the solution is going to be finding out in these 5 years, how can we make this palatable so that we don't have an exodus of.
Well, that's the thing is like, as folks start to age out and sell practices, those of us who will buy them, me, you, Jason, it's going to have to just all shake out. Like, somebody's going to go through the process of trying to take a very traditional practice and folding it into more modern practice. And there's going to be some fallout, and there are going to be some lessons there, and probably some tears, there's going to be there are going to be some lost clients. There are going to be some lost staff. And every time that happens over the next 5 years, it's going to get, I think a couple things will happen. One is that the process is going to get slicker, right? Like, people will know how to do it. But I think it's also going to drive values down for those because there's going to be learnings. You're going to be like, okay, well, yeah, maybe you have, $800,000 worth of clients, but once, I've seen this, I've put in my processes, my technology, and a third of those clients leave because they don't want to, use a scanner or log into the internets. So we'll see.
But if you have the right people to manage the change for that and manage the clients through that, then you have some people that are touch points, during that process. So they're used to dealing with people that need to learn how to scan. Right?
That's another interesting point, is how are we going to staff these new practices? And are you going to go staff them with, does it matter if you staff them with CPAs or degreed accountants? Maybe you need to staff your practices with more people who are just good at technology,
or just good with technology organized. And people. Yeah.
Right. Good with people, good with technology, organized, linear thinkers, or problem solvers. That's probably more important than, or at least as important as knowing how to.
Well, you got to have somebody with the credentials at the helm too. Somebody that makes the final call. Yeah.
But you need all those people. So when you ask me what I'm most excited about, I think it's about to get real interesting.
These problems are fun to solve because there's no right answer right now. So it takes the stress over figuring it out off, and then realizing that everybody's trying to figure this out right now.
Have you ever thought about buying a practice?
Not until recently, because when the kids were little, it's just I didn't have the capacity to do that. So
if you're going to look at buying a practice, what are you going to look at?
I'm going to look real hard at clients. I'm going to look a little bit hard at the staff. I'm going to look real hard at clients and get under the hood with clients. What kind of clients are these? How willing are they to change? What kind of industries are they? What kind of, software are they using? Are they even using software? Are they expecting me or someone to be at a physical office all the time? So I would get real deep on the client base.
And why are you interested in buying a practice?
Because you asked her.
Because I think it's a buyer's market. I think there's money to be made.
So you think there's value there's value now in
I think
practice?
I think there will be some good deals to be had. How about that?
I think that if you see the value in it, there's probably value in anything. If you want to buy a practice, you're going to buy it for, if you want the team or the staff that they have because you're short, then you might buy it for that. I was almost thinking about that when I was in a bad place. I was like, man, I just want to buy a whole staff. So I don't care about their clients. I don't care about all this other shit. I just want, all the people that they hired. Yeah. But that's not going to solve any of my problems buying somebody else's people. I had to solve those myself. At the end of the day, it's what problem you're trying to solve. Do you want more revenue? Then buy a practice. That's probably the quickest way to add to your top line revenue. You're not going to grow that fast where you can just buy $400,000 practice. Boom.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's for whatever reason. I'm answering your question that you asked. My bad. Sorry.
Do y'all do this to everybody?
Almost.
You mean listen to
At the
Scott
end, they
answer
just
his own
start twiddling
questions?
their thumbs. Yeah. Because he's asking general questions, and I'm like, I can answer any general question, dude. I want to hear about Amanda. Yeah,
Well,
that's why she's here.
Hmm.
But this isn't about me or you.
So,
this is about our guest.
So we're almost out of time because Amanda has things to do.
I've got a quote: "The best CFO is the CEO if you give them the numbers, and you're just making 1 and 1 equal, not just 2. It could be 4. It could be 8. It could be whatever you want it to be. The best CFO is the CEO if you give them the numbers. So 1 and 1 doesn't always equal 2.
Save this for our other podcast where we just read quotes to each other.
That's funny.
It's just fun.
Yeah, that's sweet. That's so cute. I wish I had somebody to read me quotes about
You can
business leadership.
you go on my OnlyFans account, I'll read you poetry.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
We talked about OnlyFans last week with Zachary and Laurelyn.
So we ask everyone this. I ask everyone this. Give us some sort of advice that of all your things that you've learned to a new firm owner that's starting out. What's a piece of advice you can give them?
Man, probably just not to get hung up on every little decision because they're all going to change. One thing that just makes me so upset is these bookkeeping coaches or practice owner coaches who are like, you must pick your niche before you even have one client. Who knows what they want to specialize in? Don't put pressure on yourself to make the right decisions starting out because you're not gonna. You're just not gonna. You just make the best decision you can with the information you have and you pivot and you reassess and you change. Don't get hung up on like every little thing. Just keep on swimming.
I love that.
Yeah, keep on swimming. Everybody always ends with a great.
Okay, so Amanda, tell us, you've got like literally 400,000 things you're doing. Tell us, okay, first of all, if we want to buy the Xero book.
Easiest on Amazon.
I will click a link in the show links.
Yeah, easiest on Amazon, but I do like a good independent bookstore. So if you are willing to wait, go to your independent bookstore and ask them to get it.
And then leave a review on Amazon, please.
Please leave a review on Amazon. Please leave a review on Amazon. It helps so much. So if you guys haven't done that, please do that.
I believe I did, but if I didn't, I will go on there and leave a review.
You can leave another one.
I don't know if I could leave 2, but I'll buy one for my daughter and I'll have her leave it. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then Accounting Salon.
Yeah, accountingsalon.com. You can see who's in it. You can see where we're going to be, like those folks as they have speaking engagements. We try to keep our calendar up to date. And hopefully we'll see if we do another Salon V. There's definitely interest in it for this year. So we have talked about maybe doing it in December. Another Salon.
Maybe you do bite-sized as the V, and then bite-sized pieces.
And then if you want your whole team to get trained on Xero and go to Elefant.
Yeah, elefanttraining.com. Elefant with an F. So ELEFANT training.com. Just reach out to me there. We do have also like some self-paced stuff that's in there about Xero. So if you're just starting on Xero, there's a ton of content that's subscription based that you can get to.
And Amanda literally wrote the book on Xero. So literally.
Yeah.
So she can be trusted to teach you Xero.
I mean, I hope. I feel like I kind of know it.
That's beautiful. Amanda, this has been amazing. Hopefully we'll get to see you in person soon at one of these conferences, maybe Xero conference. This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amanda.
I'll see you guys before then. Good to hang with you.
Peace.